Are you a home services owner? I'm going to tell you today what the anatomy of a perfect home service website is and how it relates to these different SEO metrics. Often when an SEO or website person says, that'll be $20,000 for a website, or I'm going to hire this SEO agency and they're going to do SEO for months and months, you have no idea what is going on with all the various reports that they print at you and domain ratings and links and keywords that you rank on and weird sorts of technical metrics. Today, in the Marketing Mechanic, we're going to break down how those SEO metrics tie to what actually needs to happen on your website, the components that you need to have on this website, how these things are tied together, the proper ingredients that you need to actually win in Google search. And by the end of this episode, you are going to be equipped, even if you're not technical, even if you're just a plumber or a landscaper, to understand how does Google look at these things. I'm Dennis Yu. I'm a former search engine engineer. I've spent $1 billion on Google and Facebook ads. I've been doing this for over 35 years. And my hope is to pull the wool off of your eyes on how this world of SEO actually works when it comes to local. So when we look at your website, everyone starts with the home page. And the home page is where most of the juice is, because that's where people link. That's where all these links come in. So when you look at the SEO metrics of the home page, you're going to have a domain rating, DR. And think of this as the amount of juice that you have. Let's just say an average landscaper, they're probably like a DR 17. And what does that mean? That's on a scale of 0 to 100, and it's on a log scale, like an earthquake, where every 10 points is like 10 times more powerful. So if you can raise your DR from a 17 to a 27, that's 10 times more powerful. To a 37, that's 100 times more powerful. And you have sites that are like CNN and Facebook, they're like 95, 96, whatnot. You have small local businesses, they might be 10 or 15. You have regional businesses that might be doing $5 or $10 million. They're usually 20, 25 range. You have like a newspaper that's regional, they might be 40 or 50. You get kind of a sense of what this domain rating is. And the way to think about that is it's the amount of juice that's coming. And what is juice? Well, think of it as your website is receiving links, and every link contributes some amount of juice. And it's not just the amount of links. You have some links that are from major media, some links that are from some random blog that carries no power, some directory citations that don't count because they're no follows, links from social media, those are all no follows, meaning they don't pass juice. That's a signal that you tell the search engine, I don't trust this site, I'm not going to pass any juice to it. And so it's not only, so think of it as like the amount, like you're pouring juice into a bucket. So this is your bucket, your site. And some people are coming in and they're putting in just a couple drops. Some people are dumping in like a whole Coke can worth. Other people are dumping a giant jug. And so the total sum of all this is your domain rating. And this is a metric that SEO people love obsessing about. There's tons and tons of metrics. People love to obsess about this one, but the search engines don't actually care, because this is an arbitrarily determined metric by all of the various SEO tools, where they calculate it by simulating what a search engine does and estimating what they think Google thinks. So just because you're getting a link from a DR 70 site, go to Fiverr, I'll give you like 20 DR 70 links for $200. Well, just because that's a DR 70 link that's coming in, it might actually carry no power. It might actually be punitive because it's a rented site that's expired or someone took it over. Now they're putting like casino and whatever links, and your links are in there alongside all these other businesses that are not a Bloomington landscaper, not in your area, not relevant. So we look at the power, but actually more important than the power, which then the sum of the total power is your domain rating. But we look at the relevance. So if you are Anthony's Lawn Care and Landscaping and you do lawn care in Bloomington, I'm looking at relevance. Is Anthony tied to other landscapers and landscaping conferences? If he's on the 10 hottest celebrities in LA that are getting divorced, and there's an article there, clearly someone, maybe that's a DR 70 site, but it's not relevant. So it needs to have power and it needs to be relevant. And so usually when you hire other people to do this, it doesn't work out because they're not in Bloomington, Indiana. They don't know anything about landscaping. They're not connected to other landscapers. For more on relevancy here, look at episode 2 where we talk about the geo vertical grid, which is how to build the right connections in your geo and in your vertical. So that's the most amount of power is flowing to the home page. That's just how it is. So if all this power is coming to the home page, then that can trickle down to all the other pages. So what pages come off of here? Well, obviously there's like an about page. There are services that you have. There's locations. There's, maybe a blog. There could be, legal disclaimers, other sorts of things. And so if the domain has a 17, then anything that's one link away loses an order of magnitude. And so, because everything's based on how many links away is it from the home page. So if it's a 17 here, then the amount of power here might be down to a 7. And this is kind of approximate, right? And just like if you get a link from a DR70 site, it doesn't mean the 70 passes to you, because this could be so many levels away from the 70 that's on the home page that by the time we get down to the category page or article that does link to you, and then there's 10 other sites that are on that, because it's like the 10 best businesses in Bloomington, and Anthony's Lawn Care wins one of them, then he's splitting that juice, whatever juice is all the way down here, by the time it's down here, it's a 10, and then that gets split among 10 businesses. So you see like how juice flows all the way down. Just because the top level has a ton of power doesn't mean it flows all the way down to you, and then it might not be relevant, it might be a no follow, it might be on a site that has bad neighborhoods where there's purchased links and Google can see that this site has been selling links, so therefore the link on your site is also sold, or the person who's buying links that's been exposed, these SEO people, they buy links from this site, so everyone else on this site is also presumed guilty, which is what happens, right? Okay, so one link away, and then if you go another link away, you have all these other services. So maybe you have mowing, and you have tree service, and you have Christmas lights, and you have backyard or sod or whatever it is, hardscaping, all the other services that you have. And so then these are going to have a certain amount of juice, and maybe it's down to like a 2, and maybe it's down to a 1 or whatnot, right? And then you have different locations, and this is where people really start to spam. They say, I'm Anthony's Lawn Care in Bloomington, which is the main one, and then there's other cities. City 1, City 2, and then literally I was on a call yesterday, and this guy, won't mention his name, he said, but we serve 500 cities. So, because we want to be a nationwide company. I know, but you're only doing $5 million a year. You cannot be doing that. So all the way down to city 500. And none of these pages rank at all, because there wasn't enough juice at the top. By the time it flowed to the locations we serve page and all the way down to the city pages, there is none of this juice flowed all the way down, right? Likewise, if we increase the amount of power that comes in, which doesn't always have to come in through the home page, because people can link to particular articles. We can link between different articles. So let's say that we're talking about, what we're doing for Christmas. And in that particular section, we're talking about, and this is when we did Christmas lights in Bloomington. And this is when we did Christmas lights in this city. And then in this city is where we did some mowing. And it's embedded in the actual sections, in the articles, not the footer links where you list all the services and jam in every single city that you have, but it's actually helpful because you're showing real experiences of what's going on. Now all of a sudden, you're actually injecting a lot of this EEAT. So let's take this as an example where we'll look at this location page, Bloomington, okay? So this is the lawn care company, but it could be a plumber, an electrician, an HVAC, any kind of local service, but just it's the same thing, doesn't matter what the local service is. But now let's isolate this one particular page. And this is all about Bloomington. So how do we make this a powerful page that actually ranks on keywords? So I'll go back to blue, which talks about the SEO metrics. So we want to rank on Bloomington landscaping, Bloomington yard, Bloomington mower, MOWER, and then I could say lawn care near me, ranking in the map results where people are within a certain area, you know, next in Bloomington in the map results. So near me, if it matches for people that are in Bloomington. So there's all these different keywords that we want to be able to rank on, right? And the most appropriate page should be not the home page, but it should be, if you do it right, it should be that location page or it should be that service page, right? Because this is going to have the most specific information if you've done it correctly here. But here's what happens. Most people, and your site's probably guilty because we do these audits 5 or 6 times a day and we see it all day long. This page looks just like all these other pages because this will say, are you in Bloomington and you're looking for lawn care and tree trimming and whatever, we're the best company for this, and our people show up on time and they give you a good price and they're courteous and they do the job right and our customers love us, and you know, and in Bloomington's a beautiful city. It's the city of trees, and the University of Indiana University is there, and all these sort of factual Wikipedia things that ChatGPT could have written. So it ends up going blah 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 Bloomington, blah 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 Bloomington, blah 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 Bloomington, and then all these other pages are the same thing. They're carbon copies of this with the same picture of the happy smiley family, the same picture of the trees or whatever it is, the plumber, the stock art of the happy couple in front of the house, right? And so all these pages are basically just duplicates, except down here, it's going to be city name, blah, 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 city name, blah, 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 city name, blah, 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 okay? These pages are all the same. What is that called? Duplicate content. Those are thin pages. And people come to us and say, how come these pages don't rank? How come the overall website doesn't rank? Well, A, you don't have juice flowing through, but B, even if you did, the location service pages, we'll talk about service pages in a minute, are just auto-multiplied spam, Mad Libs. And ChatGPT can literally do all of this for you in like 2 minutes. There was one guy, he's in Louisville, Kentucky, and he paid this guy, Jason, I won't say his last name because he just sold his company for a lot of money. He's an SEO firm. $70,000 was paying this SEO firm $70,000 a month. And all they did was spin up all these duplicate pages. Didn't drive any SEO at all. Did a bunch of fake press releases like up here claiming, hey, we got you on Forbes and Inc. and Entrepreneur and all. Anytime you hear Forbes and Entrepreneur, like that means someone is paying for press releases. That doesn't mean you actually got covered in Forbes. That wasn't like you got interviewed in Forbes. It's just someone's paying $39 or whatever for a press release. So fake juice coming in, fake content on the site. That's a double whammy. That's why most of the time people aren't working, or why it's not working. So how do you actually make it work? Let's use green because we're talking about landscaping. Google talks about EEAT. And this is a thing that everyone seems to miss. It used to be just EAT before ChatGPT. Expertise, authority, trust. So if you want to write, here's 10 ways on how to have a beautiful, clean, and green lawn. Here's the 10 best restaurants to, it doesn't have to be the 10 best, that's called a listicle. It could be like, why we're the best thing, or here's how to cut your tree, or here's the tree guide in Indiana on, you know, here the different kinds of trees and how to mow your lawn and how much should it cost. And ChatGPT can write all those articles, right? So Google, 4 years ago, when they knew this was happening, they added this E. So it's double EAT. It's EEAT. And that first E that they added is for experience. So what we want to do here is if this is the Bloomington page, then I want to know, is there a Bloomington photo of Anthony doing his stuff? Is there a particular story of where they were mowing a lawn? Is there a particular story of Mrs. Smith and how they were cutting down her tree? And showing some of these specific details, these experiences and stories is this E. So you have to inject tons and tons of real, not tons and tons, I mean just some, of real experiences. And you can even grab stuff. Let's say that you have these, your Google business profile, and inside that, you've got a bunch of photos and videos of the customers. Let's say you have your Service Titan or your Jobber or whatever your field service management tool is, and inside your technicians are going about and they're taking photos and videos and all this kind of stuff. There's so many different places where you can take that EEAT and you can put it in the location service pages. And that's kind of a tedious thing. Why? Because the first thing is, from an operational standpoint, in your field service management system or CRM, and what you might see on Google and Yelp and Facebook and Home Advisor and Angie and all these places, right, where people are talking about you. There's that signal that's from customers, and there's that signal that you collect. The combination of those into one big folder, AI can do that for you, by the way, can then be placed, and the AI can do this part too. The AI can take these real signals and start to write real stories. So now, when you're telling real stories about mowing, about cutting down the tree, about, it's the winter, now you got to get ready for sod, and it's, the snow is coming and we have to, prepare for the winter and do, we have our Christmas lights and snow shoveling or whatever other services that you might, junk hauling, whatever it is. When you have these different services, that allows you to embed, when you have these stories, that allows you to actually link back correctly, legitimately, helpfully to these other pages. So now it's nicely intertwined together, and it follows what Google calls the helpful content update. And last year there was the helpful content update 1, helpful content update 2. Millions of sites got knocked out of the index because they didn't follow the helpful content rules, which is all based on EEAT. And you can talk about the name of, because people will name each of the different updates that Google makes. Oh, did you hear about Panda? Did you hear about all these animal names or whatever? Penguin this. I don't care about Panda and Penguin. And if you hear people talking about that, they're talking about tricking the search engine, because they're talking about, oh, that Google made this kind of change, so we got to adjust because we're making these adjustments because we're getting caught on the spammy things that we're doing because we're geo-multiplying these pages out, and we're doing thin content or all these other, or we're doing CTR, like having robots come in and click on this page over and over again, and click on this, and click from different IP addresses pretending like they're from Bloomington, click on the Google business profile, leave fake reviews. Like there's a lot, anytime you hear these people say, oh, guaranteed we'll move up in the rankings organically and win in ChatGPT, and you don't have to do a thing, you don't have to give us access to your Google business profile or to your websites, your rankings will just go up. Well, what they're doing is they're generating a bunch of garbage traffic pretending like those are users, because they know from what Google had to release to the Department of Justice with that lawsuit with Apple, they revealed that they actually look at clickstream behavior, which is what we've known all along for many years, right? If you have really helpful content, then yeah, then the people who come to your content that's actually helpful, instead of call us now because we're the best landscaper in Bloomington, which is just sales puffery. But if it's actually real stories, actually helpful, actually answers their questions, then people are going to stay. So you don't need robot traffic to come here, sit on this page for 45 seconds, click over here, then the robot clicks here, and the robot clicks here, tries to pretend that they're human, right? And if you're doing that, there's so many SEO companies, so many software tools that literally just spin up bots that click around on your site and stay for a certain amount of time, pretend they're coming through the Chrome browser, pretending they're a MacBook Pro, pretending like all these different signals to try to cheat. Just don't do that, okay? Do it the right way. Do it the real way so you don't get penalized. You don't have to worry about each of these updates that come through. So what else should be on these pages? So real stories that you pull from real users and your CRM and field service management system. Also, there's another thing related to EEAT, and it's called PAA. I know it's a lot of acronyms, you just have to bear with me. What is PAA? People also ask. So when you do a search for Bloomington landscaper, it says Bloomington landscaper, there's local service ads, there's the map results, regular Google ads, and then below that, there might be some more regular organic, 1 through 10 kind of results, which we've been used to. But often right below that, you're going to see people also ask. People also ask, what does it cost to get a landscaper? Or who's the best landscaper in town? Or, how should I go about cutting? Can I go to Home Depot and cut down the tree myself with a chainsaw? All these other questions. And usually there's going to be 4 or 5 of them that are going to be down below. If you want to rank on this query, you have to rank on, not always, but pretty much, you have to rank on all the supporting queries that are tied to it. So next time you do a search, once you see this, you can't unsee this. You do a search, landscaper near me, right? And you scroll down, and then you go down to the people also ask section. You're going to realize, gee, Google's actually giving me the answer. I don't even need all these SEO tools. Google's telling me landscaper near me. People are also searching for landscaper, whatever the names of these other cities are. They're searching for, can the landscaping, do they need to have insurance? Or how do I become a landscaper? How much money does a landscaper make? Why would you want to answer those questions if you're trying to serve the consumer? Well, because those are also similar questions. The more you can answer the supporting questions, the more you can rank on the main thing that you want to rank on. And this is the whole SEO tree, which we'll get into in another episode, right? You're trying to be as helpful as possible. All the signals related to answering the main geo vertical. This whole thing is based on geo vertical, right? It's based on location times service combinations. You're a home service business. Everything you have is primarily around geo vertical because it's a Denver electrician. It's an electrician or, residential plumbing in Westminster, Colorado, right? It's all geo vertical. Unless you're like Roto-Rooter and you're nationwide, right? But that's a big franchise chain thing. Okay, so if we know that home service is all geo vertical and we can build out our location service pages based on real experience, so we come over here and just to use the same color, let's say this is mowing. That's the main thing that these landscaping companies do, mowing. We have our main page on mowing. And you can talk about the different kinds of mowers, and you can talk about the cost and how long you've been mowing and how many, guys you have that are mowing and how you have 580 5-star reviews on Google and Yelp and blah, blah, blah. You can have all that, but what else? Let's say you have some of that here and you have pictures and you have, these other things that we talked about. But what else should you have? And in what proportion? Check this out. Go into your field service management software and do a ranking and say, here's how much revenue I have by city. So, this much, 50,000 a month in this city, city 2, city 3, city 4, and literally use this to prioritize. So you might serve 100 different cities, but this number one city, guarantee you it's going to be a bulk of the revenue. Like we were just looking at Ardmore Windows and Doors, and they serve Pennsylvania and parts of New Jersey, and I think even parts of Indiana, but Philadelphia, the little metro in Philadelphia is 33% of their entire revenue, even though they serve a lot of cities. So think about this. This is like so obvious, but people don't do this. If you've got a service page that is on mowing and 30% of your revenue comes from Philadelphia and the Philadelphia metro, what percent of the content here do you think should be about Philadelphia and Philadelphia stories and your favorite place to eat in Philadelphia and the real estate agent you work with in Philadelphia and the other people in Philadelphia, because home service, you guys know, you connect with one another, right? There's a lot of referrals because if you refer them and talk about them, they talk about you. That's a good kind of thing, right? Good karma. So you should talk about these in proportion to the revenue that you generate. And yet we see people who they think that they can just spam their way down with more cities and spam their way down with more services. And even worse, what they do is they create combo pages. So then here's a combo page that is on mowing in Bloomington. Well, if you're not getting any traffic on Bloomington and you're not getting any traffic on mowing, how do you think a mowing Bloomington page is going to do? If you already have power in the mowing page and the mowing page links to this mowing in Bloomington page, if the Bloomington page has power and that links to the mowing Bloomington combo location service page, okay, that might work, right? But if there's no juice here to flow down to here, to flow down to here, remember, if you have a certain amount of juice, let's say it's a 17, it goes to a 7, then it goes to like a 1, and then look inside Ahrefs, look inside SEMrush, look inside whatever your favorite tool is, and look at the page level stats. So check this out. Look at these markers. Get markers on my fingers. Okay, so from an SEO standpoint, at the domain level, this is really eye-opening. This literally takes 2 minutes to do. Me or any of our guys are happy to show you how to do this and like run the report for you so you don't have to pay several $1,000s a month for access to these fancy tools, which we pay for, but we already pay for it, so why not? It's like the buffet. We can sneak food out in our pocket, give you some. So at the page level, at the site level, at the top level, you have a certain amount of power. Then you have certain keywords. And maybe at the site level, you rank on 500 keywords. And you might think, that's really awesome. Well, yeah, that's the number of keywords in the first 100 positions in Google. Google made an announcement 2 days ago, and they said, we're not going to report on rankings that are past position 10, because it doesn't really matter, right? You don't need that. That's not useful. I mean, really, how do you hide a dead body on the second page of Google, right? You heard that joke. So there might be 500, but how many of these are in the first 10? And then of those that are in the first 10, how many of them are actually relevant in terms of local relevance and or commercial intent? So if you have, I didn't have enough room here, but I'll just do this. The magic of the internet. Maybe we can video edit this. So let's say we have the blog section here. And I'm going to come over here. And then you've created a bunch of blogs because it's on WordPress. We love WordPress. And blogging is nothing more than a sequential list of articles, right? And what people will do is they'll say things, because it's not part of your location or service pages or the about, which we'll cover in a minute. This will be like, what we did for Halloween, and we got to, it's our the secretary's 5th anniversary, right, and with the company, and so had a baby, and happy Christmas, and hey, we just opened a new store, or we got our new trucks, and they're beautiful because they were done by Kickcharge, right? Whatever. Announcements, news, random articles, and you'll have articles that actually will appear to be really good from an SEO standpoint that drive the 500. If you're at this point, I'm glad you're here because now you're getting the stuff that really home service businesses don't understand. They really need to know this. You might have something about the, Merry Christmas, 10 different Christmas trees from our team members, or Halloween costumes or something like that. And it ranks on Christmas trees and Halloween costume nationwide, but it doesn't rank anywhere in Bloomington. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you're getting 250 keywords related to how to decorate a Christmas tree or whatever of this 500, that's not driving any leads. Yes, it's inflating the number of keywords. It's inflating the amount of traffic. If you look in your Google Analytics and your CRM and your call rail, whatever you're doing for call tracking, map it back to the keywords that it's coming on. So if you set up your digital plumbing, your call tracking, your tag management and UTM parameters and all that stuff to like track what's going on, if you set that up properly, you'll be able to see of these keywords how many actually drive revenue. Okay? So the dirty trick that SEO people do, because we train thousands of agencies, is they'll come in and use ChatGPT and generate all these blog posts. So if your stuff is around tree trimming and mowing and whatever, they'll just generate all these things around these topics, like how do you mow a lawn, or whatever it is. And you're ranking on lawn mowing terms nationwide or worldwide, or we see a lot of traffic's coming from India, because I guess they have lawns in India in different parts and they want to know how to mow them. And so you're ranking on these terms, but it doesn't, these people who come in on these particular blog posts, they never make it to a location service page because they're not even in Bloomington, Indiana. Personal injury attorneys are probably the worst at doing this, where they create, the blog actually becomes a glossary. So this is called a glossary upload, glossary bombing. And they literally just, or dictionary uploading. But whatever it is, they just start creating definitional articles on all the different topics. So if I was a black hat SEO, so black hat means I'm doing it for trickery instead of doing it for the real thing. And most people are black hat, but they don't realize they actually are. They are, but they don't realize they are. They think they're doing good, but they're spammers without realizing it. What I would do is I would take all the names of the different kinds of equipment, John Deere and Caterpillar, and the names of, where of the different sorts of tools and techniques, all the industry jargon, and I would just create a dictionary or glossary against these items. And then I would say, ta-da, we rank on 2,000 keywords. Now, we were only 500 before, now we're at 2,000. Huge win, 4 times the SEO traffic. And that would technically be true, but it's not real because I'm ranking on all these things and there are people all over the world that are learning on how much a certain lawnmower costs and how do you fix this lawnmower and what are the coolest kinds of trucks. Here's the best design of landscaping trucks that we've ever seen. We met Tommy Mello and Dan Antonelli at a conference, and I'm not saying don't do that, but just understand that these, I'm not saying don't blog, but understand that when you do it for the sake of trying to increase a vanity metric, or because the client gets some kind of report every week that says, ta-da, here's how many keywords we have. To which I ask, so what, right? Is it making the phone ring? Is it keeping my crews busy? I've got 7 crews and they can't just be standing around because I got to pay these employees, right? Is it driving me jobs? Can I see it in my jobber, right? And this is kind of where the disconnect is between the SEO expert or the digital agency and where the business is. So if you do articles or blog posts, here's what I recommend that you do. And same thing for social, which we covered in episode 3 of The Marketing Mechanic. In case you don't know, this is episode 6. So if some of these things don't make sense, you may want to go back to episodes 1, 2, and 3 on what some of these basic concepts are, because I'm just adding on top of them, right? It's like coming into the middle of a class or in the middle of a Netflix series. You're on episode 6, but you didn't watch any of the first episodes. So you're all like confused about what's happened so far, right? Okay, so if I want to do blogging correctly, what I'm going to do is take stories here, and each of those can become a blog post. I'm going to take videos that our team has made, following people around, a day in the life. Oh, today we're going to Mrs. Smith's house and we're going to do an estimate on her lawn. And then in the backyard, she wants to, have this done and pull out this tree and grind this stump, right? Every one of those things can be a blog post. Every 1-minute video, every combination of pictures of doing a certain kind of job, as long as there's a story behind it, as long as there's something real, the EEAT, real experience, right? That then can become blog posts. And this is what repurposing is. Repurposing is something that's happened somewhere. Like I could screenshot the review that someone left that was 5 stars from Mrs. Smith, and here's what she said, and she uploaded a picture. And and the screenshot is more believable than just copy pasting saying John F. said they did a fantastic job. Really? That's like Abraham Lincoln said that the iPhone's the best product ever. No. Screenshots, and even still people often don't believe screenshots, right? But to try to make it as real as possible, or embed posts that people have, like maybe someone left a Facebook post, or maybe someone, one of your team members posts on Instagram about, I love my job so much. I love working for Anthony. He's like one of us. Or, there's all kinds of stories that can be repurposed into posts. And when you do that, you don't get stuck in the whole, oh, we got to publish a blog post every week just for the sake of it. Well, why? No one's seeing it. It doesn't help us. It's just costing money. You might as well just piss in the wind. Why would you do that? Excuse my vulgarity. So when you have a site with a lot of real experience here, not just some random person not in your town writing articles just for the sake of writing articles because they promised you 5 articles per month or something. Real experience that gets embedded in the location service pages. What we like to see, it's not an exact number, but I want to see at least 100 pages. That might sound like a lot, but if you take these top category level pages that are from the homepage, take the location service pages, maybe there's 10 locations, maybe there's 7 or 8 services, there's 6 or 7 pages here, there's like an about and some legal pages. You're already up at 35, 40 pages. So if you add another 60 pages here, you're already up at 100. And in a matter of 2 months, 3 months, you should easily be able to get to 100 real pages that contain real stories. Now, if we go into Ahrefs and we see, here's all these pages. Well, I don't have time to work on, and we looked at one today, I think it was like 600 pages. We don't have time to work on every single page. So how do we decide, of all the pages, where should we focus? Because people say, yeah, you know, I see all the stats and I can run the metrics on each of the pages, I can run the metrics on the site. But how do I know? I mean, I have a tiny team, or it's just one intern working half-time. It's my wife who's also doing admin and payroll, and she's also trying to do marketing, and we have this, you know, 2 or 3 interns that are trying to do our marketing because we're a tiny company. We're only $1 million a year, so we can't afford to have a full-time marketer or whatnot. We barely have a part-time agency. And I'm so busy, I don't have time to learn all this kind of stuff. Here's what you do. You look at your top pages. So for sure, there's your home page. That one carries all the juice. And then I would focus on the next 5. What are the top 5 pages? And top 5 pages by traffic via your Google Analytics and your SEO tools. Top 5 pages by calls, which is not necessarily going to be the same. And a lot of the calls might be coming from your Google Business Profile, not the site. So don't allow anyone to trick you on that. Sometimes the website does nothing, and it's all on your reputation on Google Business Profile and referrals. It's not from the site. And by the way, if they come in and the keyword, the number 1 keyword is a brand term, meaning your name, which we covered in episode 4, those all get subtracted from here because that's navigational. When they search Anthony's lawn care and tree service, they're not searching, they're navigating because they can't type in HTTP, ://. That doesn't even count. That's not even SEO. And the SEO people want to argue with me because that makes their stuff look not as good. They'd rather take credit for reputation that was already there. They'd rather take credit for what's coming on map results, which is your Google Business Profile. It's not your website, okay? The website barely affects what happens in Google Business Profile. SEO people want to argue with me on that, but they're wrong. Ask ChatGPT, it'll tell you they're wrong. So traffic, calls, revenue. Sometimes you have, like if you do a lot of mowing, let's just, I know I'm talking about landscapers, but it can be, the equivalent is going to be true in other home service businesses. Mowing is not a high profit thing. That is just a base to be able to get a customer base where you have them on a schedule. But then they come in for tree service. So maybe you have some terms related to tree service, and those jobs are $6,000, $7,000, and mowing is $150, right? Well, there may be less traffic on certain terms, but they're worth more. So you're going to have a different mix of pages based on traffic, calls, and revenue. And if you work on just the top 5 and you ignore all the other 95 or however many other pages, you'll be just fine because it's the 80-20 rule. 80-20 is to say, I'm going to overinvest in the areas where it's winning for me, right? Like, why would I try to do every one of these random things that doesn't move the needle? I'm going to put my effort where the priorities actually make sense. So that being said, the home page is the one that carries the most juice. It's the one that has the most traffic, unless you have like these blog listicle articles that actually don't drive real traffic, but they just rank because of Christmas lights or something like that. So what has to happen on the home page? This is something that gets everyone screws up. Okay, so at the top of the home page, you can have a beautiful picture of you and all of the vans. Let's just pretend like you have all the vans, and the vans are in front of the building with your sign, and that shows like you're a reputable company, right? And then you have a thing saying 1,000, Google reviews, 5 stars, and trusted by these particular people, and all the trust marks. Here's a big phone number, call me, 213, blah, 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 whatever the phone number is, right? That's a telephone. Didn't win an art, did I? I'm an engineer. So that's what most people have. And then maybe they put another button here, call us now, we'll come out for a free estimate, right? Maybe there's some other stuff that they have, but that's usually what you have on the homepage. And you have these other links, the about, the social media links, all that kind of stuff, right? Pretty standard. Guess what's missing? The homepage is the entity home. So back to episode 1 of the Marketing Mechanic. The entity home is the most powerful authoritative page for that entity, for that thing. So for your company, the home page, not the about page. The home page has the most juice, has the most traffic, should be the definitive page. How do you do that? Well, below all of the brochure stuff, call the phone number, all the decorative visual stuff, below that, you include all this other information down here. It's not keyword jamming. It's not like text insertion. It's as people scroll, they get more detailed information about the company. And this shows the trust that you have. This shows who you're involved with. This shows some things about how the company got started and why you do what you do, and kind of like a big bio summary of the company. The about is going to contain similar information, but more from a story summary level. And then from because the about is the why behind why you're doing things, and the factual information is going to be on the homepage. This is what people don't understand about. And same thing I talked about in episode 5. What's on the homepage of the personal brand site versus what's on the about. Ask ChatGPT to explain it if that doesn't make sense to you, right? So if you have these stories, guess what? These stories can link back over here for more detail. And as you have stronger stories over here, that gives you more items to be able to link back here. And now you're distributing link equity between your sites in an organic, natural looking sort of way. Isn't that awesome? Now here's my favorite part of this whole thing. Think about, what is the search engine looking for when it's evaluating what's on the site? And when I say search engine, I'm also saying Bing, which is OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, right? I'm also saying Facebook, which is an algorithm but looks at it in a slightly different way. But it's looking at all these signals, but maybe weighted more towards things that they see inside their area, right? But they're still looking at these different signals. So what can we do to show Judge Google or Judge ChatGPT that we're legit? Well, think about this. If this website contains location service pages that actually contain real information about your company, real stories that are broken out in the right way, that actually link appropriately back to the location and service pages, not just auto-generated stuff, which is what people see with these things, with majority of your sites. You guys, I've looked at enough sites, that's like 99% of them. But actually, you're increasing the signal strength because of this E of EEAT. Then there's all these things that an AI can't do, right? Because the AI is not generating all of these reviews. The AI is not generating fake things and generating images out of your field service management tool. The AI is not, the AI can't make up stories about Mrs. Smith or about, factual information about the owner, about who you are, about, if it's something, like here's the litmus test. If any of this is like too technical, look at any one of these, any page on the internet, any page on your site, and say, is this something, now, and you can swear to me up and down, yes, it was written by humans and it was quality, I paid this company a lot of money, they're a great company because so-and-so uses them too. Okay, great. But just look at it sentence by sentence and see, is this something that an AI could have written? And the majority of the time it's yes. So what content, what information in here is stuff that an AI or an external agency or whatever, someone who's not in your business, what's something they couldn't write? What's something they couldn't generate? The answer is real stories, real pictures, real videos, real things on social media, all those real signals. So the main thing is you want to, I'm going to use red so you can finally see how this whole thing, the spider web ties together. If you have real signals on Facebook, Instagram, Google Business Profile, your phone, right, Service Titan, all that, my favorite thing to do, and we live by example, is look, you can see inside my iPhone, there are pictures and video of me and Anthony. We're out there doing stuff for his lawn care business, right? This is Ardmore Windows and Doors, and you can see we're actually replacing windows and doors and interviewing people and the technicians, and we're spending time with these home service business guys, right? Training up their team. There's my Southwest Airlines boarding passes. I always get A because I'm A-list preferred. And you can see I'm having dinner with, like, here's Sal Sciorda, he's a plumber, and his team, and Alex Mikowski and Luke and other folks, right? Like, there's real experience, and you can see the information on this. Where is it? The I is the information. See that? It shows you where it was. It's in Easton, Pennsylvania, Saturday, September 13th, right? And it's got people in it. And I can literally tag on those people, or click on those people, and see who they are. And when I have those people, the AI is already here. I think you guys often don't see the AI. Here it is. So here it's categorized by who it's with. So Dennis and Anthony, right? So all these pictures of Dennis and Anthony as we're doing stuff. My favorite is actually, so this is Apple iCloud, right? But if I look at Google Photos and I look at, say, pictures of me and Anthony, or no, there's Anthony and Alex. They're both wearing the Anthony's Lawn Care shirt. And look, it's already categorized. It's Anthony and Alex. And we click on, that's not blood, by the way, that's red magic marker. You see that on my thumb? That's not blood. And Anthony, there's all these things with me and Anthony. Dates, where they are, what we've done. We're up in the trees, with the scissor lift, or with this guy getting an estimate, the senior citizen, and he's been going to this church a long time, and here's one of his employees who's been with him a long time. We're in San Diego. We're doing all sorts of things. He almost hit a hole in one. You can see it's like a foot away from the hole. We're with George Pratt. We're, he came to Vegas to visit for a few days. We're with his son doing all kinds of sports things. And you can see like this here is in Chicago, right? You can see this information. What we're trying to do is show the signal that's tied to this. And a lot of people say that it doesn't matter, like the geo information. It absolutely does, if you use it the right way. So just because the photo shows that this is in Chicago at Perry Marshall's conference, and it's got me and Anthony, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. What we're saying is if you have this raw set of ingredients from your phone, from social media, get it all into one place, right? The AI can get it all into one place. If that's the case, the AI can also build all of these location service pages because it's got everything categorized. Your Service Titan or Jobber has everything categorized. It can rebuild the home page. It can figure out where to link between different items. It can figure out, you got to be careful if you give it access to your QuickBooks and other stuff because there's ways to talk, got to be careful there. But if you you could just export a list from somewhere else, say here's where we want to prioritize. So ChatGPT agent mode, go in and fix parts of my website in this priority. Or here's the keywords that I rank on, and here's what we don't rank. Now that you've given ChatGPT that context, it can start to optimize parts of the blog. It can optimize where you should have navigation. It can optimize what kind of cities should be here. Maybe one of these cities is so important, it should be right up here on the homepage. If it's a 30 of revenue, you probably should, right? Because now it's only one link away instead of like 3 links away. So it has more juice. Every link away, you lose an order of magnitude of juice, right? And then when you run this report, you can see for any one of these, like Bloomington, initially, we see that it's got it had a 2, let's say. And that's the power of the page, and it had 10 keywords, and then we make these adjustments. And now because of internal linking, because other people actually link to us, not just internal linking, now it's moved to a 5, and the 10 has moved to a 30. And it wasn't just the fact that we increased these 2 technical diagnostic metrics, it's that this is actually generating more calls because these have local intent. They weren't just like people in Pakistan that want to know like how much does a landscaper make. It doesn't matter for what we want to do, okay? So think about what does it take to actually do this? Now that you know what the structure is of a home services website, and you know that it's about the input that drives this structure of location service pages. Location service pages, right? A home service business is about location service pages that have the meat that come from these different stories that are repurposed that fit into these location service pages, right? Everything's tied together in a natural looking way. I mean, look, you could have a location page, Bloomington, and let's say there's some city next to Bloomington. Well, you can mention that here, and that's a natural link from here to here, right? Not an arbitrary, because people will say, oh yeah, but we have this one page, with this one city page, and here at the bottom we have a list of every single other city that we serve here. See, we embedded all these links. That's not what I'm saying. You want to have in-body links. Naturally, they're inside, they're in here, not keyword injected, but they naturally actually make sense, and they can be sourced and traced back from here. Everything here that I'm showing in red can be done by the AI, meaning it can be done by you supervising it. You do not need an agency to do this because an agency, they often don't care, they're not in the same city, they don't understand your team, and they can't even do it because it comes from your CRM and your systems, because those are the raw, real ingredients. You can't just hire these random article writers. Unless they have access to your CRM and know the names of all your team members and all that, they won't know how to take those items like I showed you on the phone and inject them. Injecting sounds kind of bad, but put them into these other areas. So now that you know what this is, should a website cost $20,000? People ask me, I paid so-and-so $20,000. You can Google my name and SEO audits. You'll see I've audited tons and tons of websites where people paid $20,000. Landscapers, HVAC, lawyers especially. You can charge a lawyer $100,000 for a website. They won't know any better, right? They're a big-time billboard lawyer. They drive a $300,000 car. You charge them $100,000. I'm not saying do that, but those are the ones who do, right? How much should a website cost based on this? Well, if you want to have the framework, without all of this repurposing and the process stuff that I talked about, it should be under $1,000. I think it should be about $650. I've done hundreds of them. Now, that being said, don't hit me up saying, Dennis, I heard you said you could do it for $650. No, you can take our template, you can take our training, you can run our audit tool. We have all these templates we're putting out there for free, and you could hire someone on Fiverr or Upwork, or you could have one of your team, maybe you have a son, maybe you have like an Elias who's 17, and he can follow our instruction using the AIs to build these different pieces a section at a time, right? It's really about the processing of of all the raw ingredients into these pages. If someone on your team is spending a couple months doing that, and they do it the right way, that's how a website could cost $20,000, right? Because of the amount of work and processing all this content. So it's not the number of pages, it's not the framework, it's not the fanciness of the servers or the hosting or the tools or the premium WordPress plugins. It's not because it's a custom headless CMS design or any technical stuff that they'll try to challenge you on. It should be WordPress, by the way. Don't tell me it's Wix. Don't tell me it's one of these other ones. I'm an engineer. You're never going to win that argument. And you can't win ChatGPT on this argument either, because it's a fact, okay? WordPress, okay? Unless you just have literally an extra $50 million and you want to blow it on technology for the sake of it. You're a home service business owner. You want to know what works. You're a plumber. We've got a ton of plumbing websites. You're a landscaper, you're a roofer, electrician. There's a ton of websites that already rank, that already work. You can literally copy. They use the same framework. You can even copy other people's sites. Just change it out for like your name and your pictures and that kind of thing, but copy the framework, right? I hope you found this helpful. In other episodes of The Marketing Mechanic, we're going to break down how you fix different components. We're going to break down how you connect with other businesses in the Geo Vertical grid. And we're also going to explain some of the paid offerings we have. If some of this stuff, you're saying, I agree, like this makes a lot of sense, but I'm too busy, I don't have time to do it. I want someone who I can trust that's trained in this to be able to do it. My whole life's mission is to train up young adults to be AI apprentices. And there's nothing more valuable to me. I stake my life on this, to train up other folks to be able to do this. and I love seeing their careers rise. And there's a ton of bright young adults that are going through this training, and they're specializing in different categories, whether it's like Luke in HVAC, or Alex in lawn care, or Keegan in electricians. He's taking roofers. We have Marco that has concrete coating companies and HVAC. There's a lot of these young adults, right? And I just love seeing them be able to blossom. I think of us as like the Uber of marketing services. So we're providing the platform, the training for you guys, putting all this stuff out here for free. Because you as the business owners, when you understand this is how this, the marketing mechanic is showing the engine, how this thing actually works, then you become a smart client. You understand what is real and what isn't. You know enough to be able to call BS. And then if you're a young adult and you come to this qualification and you do the exercises, just like if you're a tradesman, you want to become a journeyman plumber and there's different levels until you become a master plumber, right? Same is true in digital marketing. They have to demonstrate they can do the work. They didn't just, declare themselves that they're, whatever. They're an expert in digital marketing, which is what everyone else thinks. They're an AI expert, right? They just declare that they are. So that's what we exist to do. And every week, Thursday at 11 Eastern, we drop a new episode here in the Marketing Mechanic. I love to hear, what do you think? What are things that make sense? What are questions that you still have? What are ways that we can improve this? And if you want to join us on this journey and you want to hire one of our young adults to implement this for you, it could be your own son or daughter, I would welcome you. We have a program where you can bring your son or daughter in to be trained up, and they get to network with all the other young adults. And then if you don't have one, or you just want an agency to do it, one of the existing young adults will adopt you. And if you're a lawn care business, then we have a lawn care agency. If you're a plumber, we have a plumbing agency, because that's the way it should be, right? They specialize. They learn the same geo-vertical grid for that particular industry. And I think you're going to see that, I strongly believe, that in the same way there's certifications and measurement and the inspector from the city, for the trades, the same is going to be true in digital marketing. So if you like this, I hope you subscribe, like, share, and comment. This is another episode of The Marketing Mechanic. We'll see you in the next one.